Okay, now in this next segment, we're going to talk about the left hand, and we're going to try to establish a very basic position, left hand position for playing the guitar. Now, there's a couple different ways that people approach the neck with the left hand. The two that we're going to address in this series of lessons is, number one that I call the classical approach, which is where the left hand fingers are really up on their tips like this, and the thumb is kind of straight up and back in the neck, kind of like this. All right, that's what we're going to call the classical approach. And then the other approach is more like we're going to be grabbing the guitar kind of like we're holding onto a railing or like the oar of a canoe or a baseball bat or something like that. More like we're grabbing it like this, all right? That's a little more of an unorthodox approach, but still it comes in, very useful. It comes in handy for certain things. But mainly what we're going to concentrate on here at first is this other type of grip, the classical grip, which I think is a really good idea for playing single notes, one note at a time, which is mainly what we're going to be concentrating on here at first. Now, before we really get into combining the two hands, we're just going to do it's kind of an unorthodox exercise here, but just go with me on this. What we're going to do, we're just going to place our fingers on one of the strings just to try to establish a basic left hand position, kind of a template for the classical left hand position. What I'm going to do here, I'm going to start off by placing my first finger on the third string, okay, the third one up from the bottom, right on top of the 5th fret wire. Now you can see I have that dot there on my neck. That'll help you to find the 5th fret wire. Now I'm placing my finger on the wire. That's not something that you normally want to do. Again, that's why this exercise is a little unorthodox. Ordinarily you want to put your finger behind the fret. We'll get to that in a minute. But just to establish spacing and the basic left hand position, just go with me, all right, for a minute on this. Hopefully this will work out. Now keep that finger in place. Again, we're up on our fingertip. Try not to make contact with the other strings, all right? You can see this finger has a very pronounced curve to it. The second finger is going to go on the next higher fret, which is the 6th fret, all right? Now as you can see, again, a pretty pronounced curve to that finger. The third finger here, the ring finger, is going to go on the next higher fret, all right? And then if you're able to, we're going to take the pinky and we're going to get the pinky here at the next highest fret, which is the 8th fret. So the first finger is at the 5th fret, 6th fret, 7th fret, and then 8th fret. One finger per fret, and again, we're right on top of the fret wire, trying to stay on our fingertips as much as possible, not making contact with the other strings. Again, that's not always the way it's going to be, but for this basic position, hand positioning exercise, it is. Now the thumb of the left hand is going to be like this. All right, straight up and down, almost as if you were giving somebody the thumbs up. All right, and the thumb is going to line up with the second finger. So if I have my first finger here on the 5th fret wire, 6th fret wire, that's where my thumb is. I'm kind of moving my hand out of position to sort of show you what's going on here. Oops, all hell's breaking loose. All right, see what I mean? This is what we go on. The thumb is in the middle of the back of the neck. All right, roughly in the middle of the back of the neck. This is where the contact is being made. All right about here. Not on the front pad of the thumb, all right, but more over here off to the side. That's where you want the contact to be made, right in the middle of the back of the neck. All right, so again, it literally looks like this when the guitar is not, the neck's not in the way. If you could actually see through the neck, it looks something like this. All right, now again, we want to try to get our fingers. This is going to feel really foreign to you if you've never done this before, so just again, take your time. Try to get your fingers on their tips, right on the fret wires. And if the pinky's too much of a bother, then you can get away with not using the pinky for a little while, just using these 3 fingers, and then just kind of let the pinky hang out. But I definitely encourage you to try. It's probably easier than you think. All right. Now, again, my elbow's not too far in, my elbow's not too far out. It's just kind of hanging, relaxing, right at the side. All this is in line, okay? The shoulder, the upper arm, the lower arm, and the wrist is all lined up, okay? So nothing's too twisted like this, nothing's sticking out. It's all pretty much on the same plane. Now, this is a very basic starting position. You don't have to push too hard either. Just get your fingers on the string above the fret wire to get yourself into this position. This is a very basic classical position for the left hand, a good starting position. All right, and it may feel a little funky at first, but I want you to get used to this a little bit used to it before you move on, because it's really important to establish a good left hand position at first, just so you don't develop bad habits. You don't want to have to go back and correct anything later on. So spend a couple minutes with this starting position before you continue.